Right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. This is our next rescheduling committee meeting. There are some code of conduct to follow, so let's be nice to each other. We have a lot of topics today, so let's start right away. And whoever put the first note in the agenda, please speak.
But this one basically, so I say it out loud to you, and then I remind myself that I have to change this. We changed the time for the meeting, and we have some places that we need to update with that. Some official places and the notes, and probably some other ones that I need to check. Yeah, basically that I'll do that.
We have one hand up. Jack, feel free to speak anytime.
Yeah, I know I'm new. Hi, everyone. But Lucas, I actually already started a PR to do that just as a
thank you so
courtesy
much.
in Slack. So I'll throw that up there and feel free to tell me what to do, or if you want to do it yourself, that's fine. But I'm going to put that PR up after this meeting.
Cool. Thank you.
Right, that's nice. Thanks a lot. All right, there is the other topic that comes from me. So about the proposal for extending the DESCHEDULER eviction handling or functionality. So I had a chat with Kubernetes folks, and they are very interested in using the DESCHEDULER. I should probably share my screen for a while, but meantime, yeah. So they are very interested in using the DESCHEDULER to move their pods from one node to another, but each pod eviction is followed by VM migration, and they cannot actually evict a pod until the migration is completed. So they actually need two pods running at the same time. So they have a customized admission webhook which intercepts an eviction request and actually returns code different from 200, which tells invoker that the eviction actually did not succeed. But it actually, there's a migration running in background, and I was still trying to find the button to actually share my screen, but anyway, there's a link in the agenda, so if you can take a look at it on your own. I will just summarize what the proposal is about. So I am suggesting that we will actually learn the DESCHEDULER to take evictions in background into account. Unfortunately, currently, there's no way to distinguish whether an eviction that got rejected produces a migration in background. So there is still some work to do on the eviction API side. So the Kubernetes team has an admission plugin, which should supposedly return the code 429 with a dedicated text message, which we could use to actually distinguish this specific case, the migration in background. So the proposal mentions actually how to approach this, what is to be done on the DESCHEDULER side, for example, to I don't know, build a cache which will actually be used to avoid evicting the same pod again in case there's a new descheduling cycle. Also, we will need the plugins to be aware of this new change. So we will need a new sorting plugin or code that will prefer pods that were requested to be evicted in background and so on. So there's also another proposal on the Kubernetes side where they are trying to enhance their functionality to actually support this. So their admission plugin can actually talk or tell the descheduler that there's a migration in background. And so that's this topic. So also like as I suggested, a solution that could be used, but it's more or less a hack. So I'm suggesting to use two annotations. First, which will distinguish the pods that where the eviction in background is expected, and then another annotation that will basically tell that an eviction in background was started by an external entity. The details are in the proposal. So, just in short, like, is this something that would make sense to you, like to be implemented on the descheduler side? That's one question. And the other one is that I'm actually, or we are kind of bending the eviction API in a way that is not upstream supported. So the other question is, should we rather talk to the upstream folks to convince them to extend the eviction API?
I have a question that maybe this is a dumb question, or you answered it in your KEP somewhere. What does a live migration mean? I haven't heard that before. Is that like a rolling update?
Yeah, so when you are live migrating a pod, you first need to start a new pod, and then you, in some magic way, actually duplicate the current state of the pod to be evicted on this new pod. And once this migration is done, only then you can terminate the pod that was requested to be evicted.
Okay, so it is like a special kind of rolling update sort of thing.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, like if you don't have the answers to my two questions right away, it's fine. We can talk about it on the next meeting or on the Slack. That works as well. I just wanted to present this here, and yes, Philip.
If I can add something to this. So like what we are trying to propose is like a different behavior for eviction, which like it's this is not like supported upstream, and it like also the blocking like blocking the eviction requests on admission with the webhooks. It can be different by a different implementation of like like even the blocking of the eviction request is not supported, but it can vary between different implementators of how they block the eviction. But like these kind of problems, like there is a wide variety of these problems, and as I mentioned here before, I'm working on the declarative non-maintenance KEP, and it's the KEP I will make some changes to the KEP, but there will be like a new concept of evacuation, which will support this scenario. So you could actually, from the scheduler perspective, you could create like a evacuation request and ask the application could migrate, and then we will have another controller, which if the migration is not complying, we would try making the eviction requests. So this would be handled all in other places.
Right, yeah, so that will mean that we will need to stop invoking the evict sub-resource, right? And instead of create a CR, right? And then wait until something happens. And
yes, it would be like more software eviction. So we would create it, but like there will be like a clean contract between the owner of the application and when the eviction or when the migration or the deletion of the pod should happen. And if the application does not comply to the contract, we will actually try the eviction again. If we do not see that the migration is not processing, we will try to do eviction, but we will just create the CR and it should be handled.
All right. So, and like, is there any? There's probably no guarantee that a CR like gets served, right? So you still need some way to guarantee that there's some existing external entity that will eventually do the eviction itself, right?
Yes, but I will be aiming for this like to be part of core Kubernetes. So yeah.
Okay, so in case of the KubeVirt case, they will be asked to create this CR as well, right? And so it will probably mean they will need to completely re-implement their solution.
Yes, like there will be a new like a way how these applications should interact with when they are doing the migration.
All right. So okay. So there's probably something we should bring to the KubeVirt team as well, and maybe ask them to reshape their proposal. But like, so like, is there any estimation on how much time it will take to build your solution? Like,
so I'm just right now I'm rewriting the cap a bit because we have had a couple of additional requests. So, but yeah, so I'm expecting a lot of feedback soon on this once I have the update. But I would like to aim this for 131.
right. So let's probably sync with the KubeVirt team and discuss with them this new option and see what they have to tell about it and whether they are fine actually adjusting their current solution or not. And
because I know like even if we implement it like through the annotations, the KubeVirt team has the same problem also when doing the drain, and when you have other entities who are trying to remove the pods, you can have the autoscalers or the drain or the descheduler, and so like each one of these places would have to support their use case, and it's better to have something like some concrete API and contract that can be used by every place the same way, and it can be used by other applications as well.
all right, okay, that all right. So I will. Right. So I think that I've get probably the questions to my answers I did not even ask, so that's great. So yes, so let's sync after the call, like maybe tomorrow on the Slack and discuss the schedule a call with the KubeVirt team as well, and in the case we can probably drop this proposal. Or yeah, all right, cool.
I have a question. You mentioned, Philip, you would be pushing the other part of the solution to also be part of core Kubernetes. Do you foresee that being blended like initially or like coming after?
So it will be part of the whole node maintenance, declarative node maintenance feature. So it will go through the normal graduation from alpha beta. So it should be there initially. This is like a core part of that, and and we have other places in Kube like that are requesting this feature to work. So yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Right. Are there any other questions on this topic?
I just want to add, like, there will have to be some small changes in the scheduler if like this, once this gets merged, but it should be mainly for you, it should be replacing the eviction with evacuation. So you just create the evacuation and then the rest is taken care for you. So, and you can look at it as a software eviction. So you would just know that the evacuation will complete in the future, but you don't know when.
Yeah, like we could probably introduce some form of feature gates for the descheduler and like flip between the current eviction API and the other API.
Yeah, evacuation.
Yeah,
but it's still not settled, but yeah.
Yeah. Right. Awesome. Right. Thanks a lot. Let's move to the next topic, which is the CAP, right? The affinity-based eviction. Can anyone make a short summary of the proposal here?
I can try. Basically, we would have required during scheduling, required during execution, affinity. And I need to remind myself. It has been a while before my trip, so everything before my trip is vanished on my mind. Philip, you also read this CAP, right? You also reviewed it.
I can also elaborate on this. So they today you have for the pot affinities you have the required during scheduling, ignore during execution. So they saw to do that there should be also required during execution. So which basically means that there would be a way in Kubernetes how to deschedule the pods. And there are two things. One is two concerns. One is that if we want to implement this, I would also like to use the software evictions as I was talking about, the evacuation, because this has a chance to also disrupt applications in a new way. And the second part is that this goes in contrast with descheduler. So the descheduler is not part of the core Kubernetes, but this would be like a new descheduling logic that would be added into Kubernetes.
Yeah, you're sharing your screen, but everything is black.
Oh, is it? Oh, I see. Okay, I don't know what to do about it. So I guess I'm the only one who can share a screen, or can everyone else try it, just in case?
Try. Okay, can you see?
Yep.
Okay. Do you want to see the meeting notes or the CAP itself? Anything you want to show?
Yeah, the CAP, if you can, please. Yeah, right. So thanks, Philip, for summarizing the CAP. Right. So, like, is there anything right now that we can do from the descheduler side of things? Because like we have that our strategy, which more or less does the same, like the one proposed here. There are some differences for sure, but like eventually, if the CAP gets implemented, like, do you think there's going to be still some usage of the descheduler plugin, or should we eventually try to converge with the upstream?
I think we should deprecate if this goes upstream, even though there's some differences. Like I think Mike mentioned some, and also Kante also mentioned some differences. It's too similar to keep like two projects that are in the Kubernetes space, and like Kubernetes SIG sponsored projects doing basically the same thing. And as everybody is like that commented on the issues, kind of agreeing, like I think it's a win to make this go upstream. And if we can go over some other strategies and do the same, would be very nice. Like if they make sense upstream, they should go upstream.
Yeah, descheduler kind of exists for like a lot of these strategies as like a stopgap in the lack of feature upstream. So like this was kind of the de facto implementation of required during scheduling, required during execution, just because no one had done it. And so descheduler was the only option. But now that it's being done upstream, like, yeah, I'd say the whole point is to deprecate it from us, and then we can point people to the actual like baked in native Kubernetes way to do it.
Yeah, that's fine by me. So we can do that as long as this new upstream functionality is alpha. We can still keep our implementation in the descheduler, but once it flips to beta, we can probably disable it by default and eventually remove it. Maybe something like this.
I think
would it
one
be
thing.
possible? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna suggest: is it possible to make like that deprecation part of the KEP? Like include that in one of the KEP goals, like when this goes to beta, remove it from the descheduler too.
Yeah, that would make sense.
That's all I want to say. Sorry.
And someone, I think it was Aldo, that mentioned that one big difference is like in one, you're making a decision per pod, and in the other one, it's a bit more global. And this is like when we deprecate this from the scheduler, we're just saying to people, you cannot make this global anymore. You have to make the decision per pod. And everybody that is already using this in the scheduler, they will be affected, and they will come asking questions. We, of course, can make the decision to still do this anyways, but we should prepare for the answers.
Yeah, there's a hands up from Jack.
Yeah, thank you. This is actually kind of a preview of my agenda item as well. One thing I don't notice in the KEP is the behavior, the way that descheduler actually does this, where it respects it essentially doesn't kick off a pod if there's no other node for it to run on. It looks like the KEP doesn't include that behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's true, and I'll definitely clarify that in the KEP because I have an interest in this behavior, then descheduler would be the only way for that to continue happening for folks who want that behavior. So that more opinionated eviction where it does a pre-check before it evicts, and it says, if I evict this, is there going to be no running pod on this? And if that's true, then I'm not going to evict it. I don't see that described in the KEP, and that's what descheduler currently does. Does this make sense?
That's a good point. Yeah, that is a good point. I think, for some things like that, like Jan was saying, we should definitely have a transitionary period where there's both options, at least while this is in alpha. And during that time, we should be, seeking things that people are using, like that global approach, or, what you're saying of the node fit, and try to see what we can implement into the upstream. I would definitely bring up something like that node fit option now, because I think that's a big one. I don't know if that's something that we want to start working on this KEP, and then later on down the road find out that it's impossible to have something like that. So I'll definitely bring that up.
I think that there's enough difference that we've talked about that it could make sense to keep the descheduler functionality in a kind of permanent, like deprecated state. Like we're not going to evolve this feature forward, but we'll keep it forever for back compat. But we recommend you use this instead. I mean, I think the global thing is, there's might be some folks where that's a non-trivial transition away from that. They might be managing clusters of all kinds of crazy workload heterogeneity, and they just rely on descheduler to do the right thing. And now they have to go back and talk to hundreds of teams to reauthor all their workload specs, you know.
I think if it's possible though, like doing the work and the legwork to get that kind of behavior into the native Kubernetes solution would be a good evolution rather than maintaining a deprecated solution forever. I don't know if that's
for sure. I think that that effort might be very, very long.
yeah, I agree with that. So
it took, I think it took at least 7 years to get here from the original kind of casual remark, like we're going to do this in descheduler because Kubernetes is not doing it. The Git blame is very old. Most comments.
Yeah, it's just my idealistic view is, you know, the descheduler kind of exists as, like I was saying, like features that don't like exist right now in Kubernetes, and so where we can have the right way to do things would be to have it built into K8s. But yeah, there could be a long time between that, and it might not be able to happen. But whatever we can ship to upstream, you know, maybe there's other parts of this strategy that we can pull out, or we can keep that node fit option on its own. But
I can see the, yeah, go ahead, Philip.
Yeah, if I can just add, like, if I understand it correctly, like there is nothing set in stone, right, in upstream and in this cap. So even the feature as it is in current state is like the implementation or how it should behave, or even how it should look in the API, that's all to be discussed. So like, I suppose if you want to port some of the core descheduling logic into Kubernetes, then it should be part of this cap rather than later. I know there is a remark in the API, but it's commented out, so I'm not sure if like if it even has to like be fulfilled.
Yeah, like, I agree. It will be then harder to extend the design later, but like we can also migrate the node fit functionality as part of the evacuation API or some external entity that will actually, you know, reject eviction if there is like the node fit functionality checks says no. There's another option.
Sorry, I lost your voice for a bit. What API you mentioned?
The evacuation API, the one that
Philippe
proposes. Yeah.
Like, yeah, so like the evacuation, like it's just a tool, so there is no descheduling logic, but I would like this to be rather used in Kubernetes instead of eviction because it's much safer. Yeah.
Right. Any other thoughts on the proposal?
If someone could like add what we said here into a comment. I know at least Jack, what you were saying for the.
Yep, I'm happy to do that. I have a near-term interest in that, so the incentives are aligned for me. I'm super interested in what they want to do.
Yeah, for time, do we want to get to Jack's pod eviction PR next?
Yeah, I'm
relevant.
Fine with that. We can discuss the rest on the next. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I just destroyed it.
Yeah, I was just looking at the clock and.
Yeah, but that's a
Yeah,
thanks for
that's very kind. Thank you so much. I'll be super brief. So I feel like the suggestion in the PR, which makes sense, is that we want this behavior to go into the default evictor into as part of enabling node fit as like an alternate additive configuration for node fit. Is that the proposal where this would be better placed?
Yeah, it was just when I saw this, it looked to me like it could apply to like all of the strategies in this family of you know, the violating node affinity, violating you know, basically it kind of like just disables the node fit check, right?
For
or
this particular one,
bypasses
that's
it at
right.
least.
I couldn't figure out a way to do that, so I'll give it another pass when I have a free dev cycle. So I think I understand what you're suggesting, and I agree that that'll be great. So I'll try again. If I still can't figure out, just in terms of the code flow, there didn't seem to be an obvious way to short circuit the node fit in the way that would make the most sense. So if I run up against that again, I'll reach out over Slack and maybe ask for some hints. But the code is fairly clear, so. Does my use case make sense? Like why we would want these pods to be fully evicted?
Sorry, I didn't get a chance to read through the details.
That's okay. I'm happy to just explain it. So essentially, the current behavior totally makes sense in the context of a Kubernetes cluster where there's nowhere else for those pods to go. And so it makes sense to default to being conservative and not evicting those pods if they have nowhere else to go. And you're probably just waiting for a contributor or some use case to come up to change that. So the current situation makes sense to me. My scenario is a multi-cluster scenario where there actually may be, or there will be somewhere else for that pod to go, which is on another cluster. And a super elegant, clean indicator of that to a multi-cluster scheduler who's paying attention to clusters in its fleet and is capable of rescheduling an entire workload or set of workloads from one cluster to another. A great signal to that is a non-running pod in that workload or in that set of workloads. And so the current descheduler behavior, and I'll bring this up to in that affinity cap as well, makes that harder. It puts more work onto the multi-cluster scheduler to have to do more inferential stuff. And it would just be nice to have a super clean signal that followed the declarative config of, in this case, node affinity, or it could be a taint config as well, to just say, yeah, this pod it has nowhere to run. So that multi-cluster scheduler actor can then just infer from that first class state value and then move it to another cluster where the node affinity configuration matches. And it's just a continual process where things can go shift from cluster to cluster, similarly to how descheduler makes the eviction and rescheduling of workloads continual in a single cluster.
Yeah, I think as soon as you said multi-cluster, I totally understood what you were talking about. It kind of seems more like a shortcoming of the descheduler's part that it really only can see over a single cluster. So the fact that, like, if the descheduler
that's actually super valuable. And trust me, if you're composing a solution, the fact that descheduler is scoped to that cluster and you just install that everywhere, that's actually great. So
I'm just saying, like, hypothetically, if the descheduler did view over a multi-cluster, like, this wouldn't be even a problem because it would be able to say that it has somewhere else for it to go. So we're just kind of asking for a way to like extend that sort of behavior. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Does anyone else have any opposition to it? The only other thing that I had was putting like a better descriptive like name for it so that people are just aware that it's going to like force the eviction. I guess whatever you want to enable full eviction.
For sure, yeah. Super open to that. Yeah, don't have any opinions on that at all.
We have some work for the factoring of the nodefig code to make it more configurable. And by doing that, we might actually turn it into a plugin and just basically disable that plugin, which would provide a free solution for this use case.
Yeah, I think the only question for this will be if you want to like enable this setting on individual plugins, because when you set up the default, well, I guess you could set up two evictors, right, and name them differently, and then use one evictor. Or you'd have to use a different profile.
Yeah, different profiles, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. That's why we made those.
Yeah, I think my observation of reading the code is if you want to make it global, I mean, this is where maybe I'm naive to the code base, but my initial impression was to make it global, you have to actually go per plugin and make sure that, because different plugins have slightly different pathways towards eviction.
Yeah, on the implementation side, you'll have to do it that way. I was saying from a configuration, like if I wanted to just have this for one, the approach for that would be to do it through its own profile.
Cool, that makes sense. So if maybe there's just a dispatching of a higher level configuration across the plugins that I haven't observed, then I'm totally up for that, because I think it would be super, super clean. Most use cases, I think, for this would want node taints, node affinity, and other related things to act in common.
I think you're right that it will be a little tricky to implement it through that, because exactly what you're saying, each strategy has kind of its own like tweaks and additions onto the evictor, where like I think this was just hard coding a check if it fits. But I'd be interested if it's possible. If not, we can do it as a individual config option. But I just like to see that first if we can.
For sure, makes perfect sense. Thanks so much for going above and beyond to include a noob. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Right, that was a nice use case to hear. All right, so we have 5 minutes left, 4 minutes now. Do you want to go through the V1 of 1, 2, 3 now, or do you want to keep it for the next time? Like the last topic will take more than 5 minutes. So does anyone has like any quick thoughts on the alpha topics?
I think we can schedule that meeting that we've been saying we wanted, like to go over this things that are leftovers. That maybe is not like on sync with the community meeting, but yeah. I added here the versions of the APIs because we started discussing that like it comes up on in a lot of PRs and issues. So I think we should discuss that. But yeah, I don't think we have time now. I have a hard stop in 4 minutes as well.
All right, so maybe just a quick note. Is there anyone on the go who would like to become a reviewer who is not yet a reviewer? Nope. All right, maybe next time it will be better.
Did you just volunteer anyone to sign up for being a reviewer of the project? I think that's just a terrific. I want to go to every SIG and encourage them to follow this, because let me tell you how hard it is to. Sometimes it can take 9 months to get anointed as a reviewer. So that's very inclusive of you.
It's pretty easy to do it for the DESCHEDULER. Like we don't have probably any strict rules or policies for it. So it's just if you take, I don't know, 4 to 5 reviews, and we can see that you're providing a good feedback, it's probably sufficient to become a reviewer.
Well, that's awesome. When I attend other meetings, I'm going to say do it like DESCHEDULER.
All right, so if you are interested, just let's probably sing on the Slack, and we can give you more guidance on the topic, and then discuss it further. All right, it seems that's all. So thanks everyone for joining. It was actually great to see everyone face to face. So hopefully we will do it next time in the same number of folks. So enjoy the rest of your day, and talk to you next time.
Thank you. Take care.
See ya.